Hello, class. This is my audience, my girlfriend. It's the year 2002. Superhero movies are either hit or miss. And here comes along this glorious blockbuster movie that'll grow to shatter the expectations of superheroes on the big screen. It'll convince general audiences that superhero movies can in fact be good. Sam Raimi as a director inspires me through his work in Spider-Man, and I see his courage and love for Spider-Man being put into the film, which will allow for this great character to inspire me and so many others to be our best selves. Sam Raimi's ability to take us on a wonderful ride of this nerdy kid who gains superpowers and learns responsibility allows us to learn from it and inspires us to do the same. The reason this movie and the entire trilogy works is because it's not about Spider-Man, it's about Peter Parker. The movie spends quite some time introducing us to him and the various characters: his best friend Harry, his crush Mary Jane, his beloved aunt and uncle, and many more. The relationships that Peter has with these characters are the heart of this film. We see this socially awkward guy who wouldn't know how to say anything to his crush. We admire his loving relationship with his aunt and uncle, and we understand that when this heart-of-gold teenager gets superpowers, it begins to change him. He pushes his family away. He starts fights at school to seem cool. He becomes more and more of a delinquent. Uncle Ben responds to this by telling Peter, with great power comes great responsibility. And that's what this entire film was all about. Responsibility. Now there's a series of events I'd like to go over. With Peter's newfound powers, he becomes drunk off of pride. We see this when Peter wants to buy a car to impress Mary Jane. So he signs up for a wrestling match, wins, but he's only given a couple $100 in return, out of the $3,000 promised. Then in comes the robber. Peter has a choice here. He can do the right thing and stop the guy, or choose to be selfish and want revenge. And that's what he chooses. The robber escapes. He then walks out to see that his uncle has been shot and killed by the man he let go. And it's all his fault. The setup of introducing Peter and putting him down to fail sets up the rest of the movie for Peter to become Spider-Man. It inspires us to, when we see Peter be the underdog of the world, persevere and come out on top. We see his internal battle of getting what he wants, Mary Jane, and doing what he must, being Spider-Man. He watches his best friend dating the girl of his dreams, but in the end he stays true to himself, to the heart-of-gold teenager that he is, and lives up to Uncle Ben's words. This is why I think being a superhero means. There's a lot of depth when it comes to the villain of the movie, Norman Osborn, Green Goblin, a charismatic scientist who goes crazy in the pursuit of his own research. There's something about being able to see the transformation of the Green Goblin that makes you sympathize with him. We see his and Peter's father-son relationship, which wouldn't be such an issue if his son wasn't Peter's best friend, Harry Osborn. There are scenes that make us care about him. For example, the bone-chilling scene where Norman is talking to himself in the mirror, and we don't really know if he's gone crazy yet. Or the dinner party, where Norman finds out that Peter is Spider-Man, and we see the moment of realization sink in. Spider-Man, the person responsible for his recent hardships, his own figurative son, and his reaction is cold and calculated, showing us that Norman Osborn is still there. It's these scenes that make the stakes of the movie so heart-clenching. It's because we care deeply about the character and what happens to them. This doesn't only apply to Green Goblin. I say this for every character. Peter, Mary Jane, Uncle Ben, and more. In the end, it's not the beautiful cinematography or clever symbolism that makes us love this movie. It's the characters. This film got so much right for its first attempt, and paved the way not only for Spider-Man on the big screen, but superhero movies in general. I don't think we would have the same MCU we have today and all the other superhero movies if it wasn't for this film getting everything right. And it's because Sam Raimi had the courage to try and cared about Spider-Man so much. He believed in Spidey just like so many do today, and that's why he was able to get it right. He understood that this movie isn't necessarily about Spider-Man, but about Peter Parker and his relationships and connections. This film was the backbone of superhero films to come, carried by its characters who inspire and a director who dared.